Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Cooney. I'm president of the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. We're listening to Bill Withers, the author of Lean on Me, who just passed on this, and acknowledge his contribution to our society with that great song. So we hope you're all staying safe and healthy during these times. This is our second call with the mayor, Mass Office of Business Development, and the Small Business Administration. I want to remind everyone that all of these resources and recordings are available at metrosouthchamber.com. In addition, we will be taking questions at the end as time allows. This session is expected to have 150 or so people on board. And so we will get to as many questions as we can. Those that aren't answered during this one and a half hour, more or less, session will be divided up amongst the panelists, and we will try to get you answers and post them on our website at metrosouthchamber.com. Just want to mention two other things before we get going. The census, many of you are at home, working from home. The U.S. Census is in the midst of trying to get an accurate count for our region and our state. It's very important for resources in the city of Brockton and in the state of Massachusetts for you to complete those census request forms. They're easy to do. My family and I did it in less than 10 minutes online. We encourage you to do so. That will bring more resources to us as we recover from this COVID-19 situation. I also want to remind you that hospitals here in the city of Brockton, which serve all of the surrounding region, are still looking for masks, sanitizer, any type of personal protection equipment that you may have access to, that you may have in storage. Please allow us to know about that through emailing or texting us, and we will put you in contact with the various hospitals in the city. I also want to acknowledge our partners who helped promote this today. We're really reaching out far and wide here with business organizations and community organizations. As you know, some of the programs that are going to be talked about today help both nonprofits and businesses. So the Cape Verdean Association has been very, very helpful. The Haitians United, Brockton Area NAACP office, and the Avon Industrial Park Association, the Downtown Brockton Association, the Campello Business Association, the Montello Business Association, the Bridgewater Business Association, the Easton Chamber of Commerce, the Randolph Chamber of Commerce, and the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce. So I want to thank all of them for helping promote this and spread the word. The more resources we can bring back to this region, the quicker our economy will get back up and running. So we're going to talk a little bit about several programs that are being offered by the SBA today. We're happy to have Eli back with us. He was, as many of you know, was with us last Friday at 2 o'clock as well. And we hope to have him back next week as things progress here. But he's going to be covering the topics of economic injury disaster loan, the Express Bridge loan, Paycheck Protection Program, the SBA's debt relief for those who already have 7A and 504 loans, and as well as a couple of new programs, the PPP. Well, I guess I covered that. So we're delighted to have representatives here from the city, state, and region, federal government today. And we're going to start off with our mayor, Bob Sullivan. Bob, I just give you a little bit of background. I know I covered this last time, but you know he's very well educated. Was born and raised in the city. Went to Brockton High School. Graduated from Boston College. Has a law degree from New England School of Law. Has served for 14 years. On the city council, and recently, I think I was adding up the days, Mayor. You're just between 90 and 100 days as a new mayor, and we also want to thank you and your wife for being on the front lines of dealing with this situation, helping us recover. Mayor,
thank you very much, Chris, and I want to thank you and everybody affiliated with Metro South Chamber of Commerce and all the great agencies and organizations that you just cited. I do want to thank U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA. I'll tell you, everybody's been very responsive and helpful. We had a wonderful call just a week ago today and gotten some really, really positive feedback from business owners, both small and large here in the city of Brockton and also throughout the county. Again, Brockton is the only city within Plymouth County, but what's good for Brockton is good for the county. And I am sad to say, though, in the last 24 hours, we have lost 2 Brockton residents to the COVID-19. So that's our first 2 deaths We're up to over 240 residents that are confirmed positive. So it's taking a physical and emotional toll on everybody here. But you know what? We're the city of champions, and I mean that. And I do want to thank my dear friend and former mayor and current councilor at large, Moses Rodriguez, who's on the call today, and a lot of his affiliations at the Cape Verdean Association. But at the end of the day, Chris, we as a community need to come together as one to try to figure out next steps. We know we're going to have some tough days ahead. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. But ultimately, we'll get past this. And when we do, we want to make sure that we hit the ground running and we're able to create a channel of success for businesses, because right now it's just, it's really the unknown. And I want to thank you personally, Chris, and those at the Downtown Business Association in Montello and Campello. We have calls weekly. And again, we're all in this together. I said this last week, and I mean this. We have to roll up the sleeves, and we have to come together as a community, as a Commonwealth, and as a country. And I really feel confident with the leadership here on the call today and the information that's going to be given out to the small businesses. It's going to make a difference as we move forward. So thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. We also have with us a couple of folks from the Mass Office of Business Development. I know they are on a weekly call, as usually I am, at 1 o'clock each Friday with the secretaries and the Lieutenant Governor. First, I want to introduce Susan Whitaker. She has a background in workforce development, and I think is going to give us a little bit of a briefing or update on workforce unemployment type issues that were just gone over within the last hour. Susan? There you go.
Thank you and your team for having Margaret and I on this call today. The Mass Office of Business Development is just another resource for you and your local businesses to help navigate both existing and new resources. We did just get off the call, and Secretary Acosta, the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development, did give some updates on unemployment, basically sharing there are just record levels, as everyone knows, with unemployment this week, sharing that within the last 2 weeks, there were more UI claimants coming through than there were in all of 2019. Wow. Pretty crazy. Even with that level of volume, the UI system was maintained. It did not crash. And that was basically because they were able to move it to the cloud. So all of the claims are being processed online. However, the call centers are still currently down. They hope to be opening them up shortly. However, they simply just don't have the staff capacity to man the phones, and they don't want to have people frustrated waiting on hold times for hours on end. A couple of different parts related to UI in the new CARES Act. As it relates to traditional UI claimants, they're going to be receiving an extra $600 flat rate per week, which will expire at the end of July. This $600 is retroactive for anyone that had filed and exhausted benefits from January 27th forward. For the non-traditional UI claimants, those folks who are self-employed, 1099, who are typically not eligible in the past for unemployment, who now are under the pandemic unemployment assistance, the state is still awaiting guidance from the federal government. So they're trying to, getting the rules of engagement still in place. Then the state has to actually build the program. So it's still a ways away. It's important to note, though, that these claims will be retroactive. So no one's going to miss out on any dollars. The secretary is hoping that she's going to be receiving more guidance within the next couple of days. And then also, as it relates to businesses, there's been a 60-day delay to the UI fund, so you don't have to put in a special request to waive your payments, but they are asking for you to still file your quarterly wage reports, and they're going to be waiving the UI charges for 60 days. So please still submit those wage reports. However, you don't have to make payments on those. Those are being waived for 60 days. And then also all the updates for, I know people are really anxious about those 1099 folks. They are going to be posting any updates to their website and Twitter account. So that's where any information will be, but it's probably not for next, at least probably not till midweek next week.
Okay, great. We had a couple of Brockton employers who called in and were asking about getting the quickest route for their employees to gain unemployment. And I know in checking with you, it's really to go online. That phone bank is not working at the state right now, but to go online. He was great. He said, I'm just going to have them come into the office, stand 6 feet away from me, and ask them information, and I'll use it on my computer, because they didn't have access to a computer. So it's stuff like that is necessary to get folks the help that they need. So thank you for your update.
Absolutely.
We may have some questions for you at the end.
Okay.
Okay. And then we also have Margaret Laforest, who's also serves this area with the Mass Office of Business Development. Margaret has a background in municipal government, having served as a city councilor in the city of Quincy, but also has really become a go-to person on the financial pieces that are put together in support of small businesses through the Mass Office of Economic Development, Secretary Keneally. So Margaret, I know you were just on a call with Secretary Keneally. Can you give us a quick update?
Yes, thanks, Chris. Busy day today. 1 o'clock, we had the call with Lieutenant Governor, Secretary Keneally, and Secretary Acosta. As any updates come through, and I'll put this link as well, the essential service updates are being updated online, checking it out by industry. What the changes are that I understand: chiropractors, optometrists, and plant nurseries are now deemed essential. Hotels, motels, inns, Airbnbs, not essential unless they are housing COVID-related staff. So if there's a hotel that's servicing first responders, medical staff, others that are brought in for COVID, they are able to operate only to service those staff. So pretty streamlined. And construction's been a very big topic about what's happening. And so that has been updated, and it's residential construction remains essential. Private non-residential has been deemed non-essential, except for public projects. The public transportation projects are continuing. Some of the public infrastructure is deemed critical, and that's continuing. But non-residential private construction projects have been deemed non-essential. If a company is on this trying to determine if they're essential or non-essential, hello for my dog Sydney, she's been a Zoom superstar today, through the online guidance, and then determine what you feel it applies to you and make that decision. So it is local enforcement. Couple other big announcements on the personal protective equipment that we're talking about, and I know Mayor Sullivan has been great as far as coordinating local Brockton response. The state has a portal set up for any company that's willing to donate or to sell personal protective equipment, and I'm going to put that link in, as well as we're coordinating our supply hub. The other piece is Mass Tech, a portal for manufacturers. So if there are any Brockton manufacturers that are interested in transitioning their production line to personal protective equipment, there's a portal that Mass Tech Collaborative's coordinating, and that I'll add that information as well. And I think what's important to know, Chris, is as you're talking about companies with questions, and we've been really lucky to have you as such a strong partner, because we've been in pretty frequent communication with you and your team. You've been facilitating questions and answers. And I think to recognize Sue and I, whether the questions come through you or your members, and Sue and I will give you our contact information so you have it directly, is that Sue and I both work in the fields frequently. Our cell phones and email are always with us, and we're going to answer your call and your question. We've probably heard your question before, or have internal contacts and can facilitate that answer. So please, if if there is something that you can at least try us first before you're stuck and waiting on hold. The SBA has been so responsive to us, and daily Sue and I are in communication with them as well. So anything we can do to help relieve that pressure, to expedite things for you, for your members,
thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Susan, and thank you for being so available to us throughout this whole process, and to our members. So please, if you're out there and you're listening to this, and you're on this webinar and you have questions about unemployment or various resources available through the state, then please reach out to each of them or us, and we'll get you an answer and post it for everyone. If you have the question, probably 10 other people do, and it's just a great way to get information out there into the field. So we're now delighted to introduce Eli Spahiu, who has been with the Small Business Administration since 2015. He has a background in banking and commercial lending, and he works in collaboration with 150 banks and financial institutions that offer 7A and SBA-backed loans. They're also going to be critical pieces in this program the PPP program to get funds out to you as a business owner to get over this and into recovery from the COVID-19. So without further ado, I know most people are on this call to hear from Eli. Eli, you there? And thank you very much for all you're doing. I know we're communicating at night and in the morning, on weekends, and really a wonderful team. You're leading up a wonderful team in this part of the state, and I just want to thank you for that.
Well, Chris, thank you very much, and I want to thank your team, the guests that we have here today on the webinar as well. And good afternoon, everyone. As you mentioned, Chris, this is truly, an effort that it's going to take everybody from the local level, the state level, the federal level. This pandemic is nothing like anything we've seen before. And this $2 trillion aid package is really designed to get us back to recovery quick. So I do want to take the opportunity once again to thank, the folks that not only joined us, but the other business associations that promoted the program today. Information is power at the end of the day, and we want everybody to be aware of what's available through the SBA. There is a lot of aid available to small businesses through our partner banks, through the agency directly. So I'm hoping that in this short webinar, in the first part of the presentation, I want to go over some critical information, and I want to allow as much time for questions. I know there is a lot of questions out there. There is still not a lot of clarity when it comes to the programs, and particularly the Paycheck Protection Program. So there's been a lot of interest about it, and today's the first official day of the program itself. So I'm sure everybody may have seen on the news our administrator, Jovita Carranza, and the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, had a press conference yesterday around 5:30 in the afternoon. They announced the program, the Payroll Protection Program, the Paycheck Protection Program is available starting today. And for all the people we have today on the line, I just want to tell you that you may have reached out to your banks already or credit unions. There is, truth be told, there hasn't been a lot of information shared with the lenders. And again, the agency late last night sent out some guidelines on the program, about 31 pages of condensed information, which is really not, it doesn't go into a whole lot of details, but it provides enough information for the lenders to at least be able to take the applications in. The applications are out on our website. There is a borrower application, there's a lender application. The process is fairly streamlined, and again, I'm only talking about this program right off the bat because I know with today being the official start day of it, a lot of the questions are going to be about the Paycheck Protection Program. But just so you know it, patience is a virtue. There's $349 billion available. It's not going to run out in a day, 2, or a week. So there's going to be funding available, okay? And I just want you to be mindful and give the lenders a bit of space so they can get their game plan in place and get this program rolled out. So as far as the programs we have available, I'm going to start with a program we talked about last week. This is the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. This is a program that's available whenever there is a declared disaster in a county or a state. The SBA becomes the lender of last resort. We are a direct lender under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Plan. And we've been taking applications under this program since the 18th of March. So we're basically on the third week of this program. Good news here is that there's been loans approved already. So we are promising small business owners a 3 to 4 week turnaround time, and there's been a good number of loans, about a dozen a day, getting approved. So that's good news. Another critical component of this program, which we did not have available last week when we had a similar webinar to this, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance. So there is an advance of up to $10,000 available to small businesses who apply directly with the SBA for the economic injury disaster loan. So the SBA does have a basic credit score requirement, personal credit score requirement, and there is other qualifying criteria that need to be met for a small business to be eligible and qualify for an economic injury disaster loan. The advance, however, will be made available. Now, the advance is up to $10,000, is not a flat $10,000 for every business. So the advance will be made available even if the business does not qualify for an actual loan. So across the board, all the economic injury disaster loans will have a fixed interest rate for the life of the loan. So the interest rate for for-profit businesses is 3.75%, and nonprofits, private nonprofits, do get a discount of 1%, so their rate would be 2.75%. A great feature of the program is the longer maturity of 30 years. This loan does have a payment deferral of up to 12 months. So small businesses, I know what you're thinking, a loan is really not the best thing you need right now, but you don't have to worry about making payments on this economic injury disaster loans for the first 12 months. Now, that's not to say that the loan is not going to accrue interest during the first 12 months. Simply, there's not going to be any payments required for the first 12 months. But the loan will accrue interest, and it's going to be amortized over the remaining 29 years. Any loan over the amount of $25,000 and all the way up to $2 million is going to require collateral.
As far as the loan forgiveness, this is a component of the loan that everybody seems to be interested about. A couple of things to keep in mind. So all small businesses with 500 employees or less, okay, are eligible. Sole proprietors, contractors, if pretty much all industries across the board. There may be industries that have over 500 employees and still qualify based on size standards. Now, a couple of the main features of the program, quickly just to go over this. A small business could qualify for up to $10 million. Again, that is a lot of money, but every business in the nation has been affected, and obviously we've got numerous businesses that may be, maybe needing more than that, but that is the program maximum. As far as the interest rate goes, the interest rate is flat at 1%, and the loan maturity is 2 years. So not if borrowers apply for more than what the component of the forgiveness is, the difference between what's going to be forgiven that's directly tied to payroll and what's basically going to be a loan needs to be paid within the remaining 2 years. So payments are deferred for 6 months, and this is where this loan is very different from our economic injury disaster loan program. So the SBA doesn't fund these loans directly, and the small businesses need to go to their bank or credit union. So as of today, we have 133 participating Paycheck Protection Program lenders in the state. And the beauty of this program, again, is it's 100% guaranteed by the SBA. There is no collateral requirements, no personal guarantees. There's no borrower or lender fees that need to be paid to the SBA. As a matter of fact, the SBA is going to pay the lenders to make these loans. Okay, so it really is not. I don't want people to look at this as a loan. This is part of the stimulus packet, and we're asking a lot from our lenders. This is private. This is the best type of collaboration between the private and public sector, and we are very grateful to all the lenders for everything they're doing for the small business community here. So this next program is the Express Bridge Loan Program. So this program only goes up to $25,000, and it's meant to really be a bridge between the time that a small business applies for their economic injury disaster loan and the time that loan gets approved. There may be 3 to 4 weeks, and there may be another week for the funding to happen, for the loan closing documents to be sent back to the SBA. So this bridge loan is exactly, supposed to fill in that gap. So if a small business needs some funding, they can apply for up to $25,000 under the Express Bridge Loan Program. We make this program available to all lenders that participate in our Express Loan Program. However, not everyone, we cannot obligate lenders to provide this. And there is a really unique feature of this program. So a small business can only get a bridge loan from their primary bank. So they need to have a relationship in place at the time they apply. So, and that relationship must have been in place as of March 13th of 2020.
Okay.
So if your primary bank or credit union is not a participating Express Bridge Loan Program lender, then there is really no way to go to another bank. So whereas with the Paycheck Protection Program, we've heard some banks are not participating or they're just not ready today. A small business owner can actually go to another bank and apply for a payment protection loan. They cannot, however, apply for an Express Bridge loan at a bank that they do not have a relationship with, or they did not have a relationship with as of March 13th of 2020.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
So another critical, component of this particular loan is that it does not have collateral, requirements because it only goes up to $25,000, but a personal guarantee of any 20% or greater owners of the business is going to be required. So another thing to keep in mind for folks out there, a loan is a loan. And with the exception of the Paycheck Protection Program, our Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and our Express Bridge Loan Program, credit history is a must. The SBA is going to want to see your credit to at least be average or better. Although we do not have a published personal FICO score, we've heard that people with weak credit, below average credit, are not going to qualify for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Same thing with the Express Bridge Loan Program. So as you saw in the previous slide, that does have a requirement of a business score of 130 or better. So that business score truly is a combination of both personal and business credit. So anything, in the mid 600s and above may get you to the 130. Anything below that, perhaps is not gonna get you to that, critical number.
Okay, that's helpful. We've gotten that question quite a bit.
Yeah, so personal guarantees, again, there are none required for the Paycheck Protection Program. However, the bridge loan and the economic injury disaster loan both require personal guarantees. Now, people ask, how about the economic injury loan advance? Is that subject to a personal guarantee? Is that subject to, credit? Is that subject to all the rest? So the advance of up to $10,000, I cannot stress this enough, is gonna end up being, so you have to qualify for an economic injury loan of $10,000 or more in order for the advance of $10,000 basically to be yours as a forgivable grant. So if the economic injury to the business was only $5,000, and based on historical financial statements, based on documentation provided to the loan specialist, that's what the math shows, then that is going to be the advance, that's going to be the amount of the forgivable grant. All right, so how to apply? So fairly easy. For the most part, again, the economic injury disaster loan, one thing to keep in mind, it's a direct loan through the SBA. You go to disasterloan.sba.gov, it walks you right through it. So fairly easy, very streamlined process. I'm gonna go through some slides in just a little bit to go over all of that information with you. And again, just keep in mind, you cannot get this from a bank, you cannot get this from a broker. There's the only online platform available is the one the one listed here at the SBA. So
Eli, do you know if those $10,000 applications that were processed on Monday, have people begun to receive those advances?
So we really don't have any methods of checking on that. So the only thing we know is what small businesses are telling us. So we do have a way of checking if the loans are approved on our system, but there is no way for us to see if the advances have been funded in people's accounts.
So I guess we'll know by Monday if they're starting to process those, but we'll keep our folks posted on that.
Absolutely. So, excuse me, again, on the Paycheck Protection Program and the Express Bridge Loan Program, again, you do need a participating lender. For the Bridge Loan Program, you're going to need your primary lender to be an Express lender and participate in the program. For the Paycheck Protection Program, we've made it easy for people. So if your bank is not participating in the program for the time being, you can just go online to sba.gov/paycheck protection/find. And you can just plug in your zip code and you can find a lender who's authorized to provide, a paycheck protection loan. So that doesn't mean that they're able to do it today, but they're authorized to do it. As far as the economic injury loan program goes, again, that is not something that we at district office level have full access to, but we do have available to small business owners the customer service line for the Office of Disaster Assistance. And some more good news to share with you. So they're hiring 7,000 agents, and those wait lines are going to be a lot less on the phone if you were to call them or email the people at the disaster office. So my team and I here at the district office level, we've been working 12-hour shifts every day, for the past few weeks. And, the emails we get only, increase. So there is a lot of demand out there, and there is a lot of questions from both lenders and small businesses, because this is, an unusual pandemic. It's an unusual situation, and obviously nothing like anything we've seen in the recent, history. So the application itself. So I just want to make a couple of things clear here quickly. The disaster loan assistance application went through a couple of changes prior to the way it looks now on the screen. So initially, folks could apply through the portal, so the disaster assistance loan portal. We found out that it was just not designed to sustain the level of applications that we were receiving, with all 50 states being declared disasters and applications pouring in the millions per day. So they stopped that process. If you have submitted an application via the portal, and you will remember that process because you had to register, create a username and password with your personal social security number. If that's how you entered your economic injury disaster loan, then and you got a confirmation number, then you're good to go. So you don't need to do anything different, okay? If you got a application number, confirmation number by the second method we had in place, which was uploading documents into our website, then you're also fine, and you've reserved your place in the queue. Your loan is being processed. You're good to go. The only time we're going to ask you to go back to our website, and the web address at the bottom of the slide here is a direct link to this particular platform. So we're going to ask you to go back and reapply if you are looking for the advance of up to $10,000. And there was no other way to apply for it. Even if you have already submitted an application, you have to go back. You have to enter your information. But through this new platform, it's only going to take you 10 minutes. And I walked lots of small businesses through this process, and it's definitely a lot easier now than it was, you know, with both previous methods we had available. So just to walk you through the process once again, as far as making sure that the small business is eligible, you would choose only one option on question 1, the top question here on the screen. You're either a small business with less than 500 employees, or you're an individual sole proprietor, or any one of those radio button options at the top. As far as the bottom question goes, that's part of the eligibility verification. All of those check boxes need to be filled and checked. If you cannot answer one or all of them, then you're not eligible. Okay, you can only move forward if you've got all of those check boxes checked. Next page is going to ask you for business information. So this is the applicant business information as far as gross revenues. So not every field is required on this page. Keep in mind that if it's not a required field, you don't have to fill it out if it's not applicable to your business. If it is applicable to your business, definitely fill it in, even though it's not required. Okay, so the type of business, the address, all that information, self-explanatory for the most part. Next page is going to be the individual owners of the business, 20% or greater owners, name, address, social security, place of birth, date of birth, all that good information. So that's the third step. And then this is the last page. This is where you would request the advance of up to $10,000. So you'll see here that you have to provide your bank name, your account number, your bank's routing number, to make sure that the SBA is going to process this advance as quickly. That information needs to be in there. Continuing, this is at the bottom of the page. So these are the certifications. You have to check the box that says, I hereby certify under penalty of perjury under the laws of the United States that all of the above information is true and correct. You hit next. It gives you a summary of the application. Then you have the option to actually submit the application from that point. So very easy. I can truly vouch for this. Like I said, I may have helped a dozen small business owners, just yesterday fill this in. So you're only going to need to do it if you have not applied for an economic injury loan, or if you've applied already, you have a confirmation number, but you have not requested the advance. So with that said, and I don't know how we're doing for time here, Chris will open it up to questions, and hopefully we can answer as many of those as we can.
That's great, Eli. This is a great overview of what's available. Of course, we've been encouraging all small businesses and nonprofits to apply for the 10,000. It's being made available by Congress through this stimulus program to get money back into the local economy and to help strengthen your business. Without exception, you should be applying. We've had many questions on this, and most of your answers are covered through this presentation, but I just want to reemphasize that, Eli, maybe you can chime in on this. Churches are eligible, is that correct, for the $10,000?
So religious organizations under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program do not qualify.
They
So
do
that's
not.
for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Yesterday at the press conference, the Treasury Secretary and our administrator mentioned that they're going to make, they're going to make something available through the Paycheck Protection Program. But as I said, with the guidance we got yesterday, which was only 31 pages, these programs usually come with hundreds of pages in detailed, policies and procedures. So there was nothing in place there, but there was a comment to saying that more guidance is to come. And through the Paycheck Protection Program, my understanding is there's going to be an avenue for religious organizations.
Okay, so there will be an avenue, but this is not the one. Now, what if somebody has two small businesses? Say they have a home cleaning company and then a dry cleaning company, and they're two separate businesses with two separate tax filings. Can each of them apply for this?
So an individual that owns two eligible, small businesses would be able to qualify for, one, the other, or both. Okay, so depending on the economic injury. So we get this question asked often. So can one small business apply for both the economic injury loan program as well as the Paycheck Protection Loan program? The answer to that is yes, as long as the funding from those two loans is used for two separate purposes. So if the Paycheck Protection Loan program covers payroll only, and the economic injury loan program covers fixed expenses such as mortgage payments and all other operating expenses except payroll, then both loan programs would be available to a small business owner. The trick here is that you cannot have two types of grants. So if you get an advance from the economic injury loan program and you qualify for the forgiveness component of the Paycheck Protection Loan program, you have to pay one with the other. So say your Paycheck Protection program qualifies you for an $80,000, payroll forgiveness. If you've already received $10,000 from the economic injury loan because they got approved first or whatever the case may have been, then you're only eligible for $70,000. So that $10,000 is going to basically need to be paid off.
Okay.
And counted in the big scheme of things.
So we're getting that question quite a bit in terms of the EIDL versus the PPP. Folks say if I apply for the $10,000 through the EIDL and then I get a PPP loan, will they subtract the amount of the $10,000 from the PPP loan?
So yes, you cannot double dip. The short version is that for the grant component, so for the advance of $10,000 under the economic injury and for the forgiveness component of the PPP loan, you have to choose one or the other.
Okay.
The only time you can have both loans is if they're for two distinct different purposes.
Two distinct different purposes. Okay. And in terms of the EIDL advance, the $10,000, we're getting a lot of questions on that. Nonprofits like Elks Lodges and Rotary Clubs, that type of thing, would they qualify?
So under the economic injury disaster loan, is that the question?
Yes.
So most, private nonprofits would qualify.
Okay. And I'm running through these. Seasonal businesses. This is a question we're getting. Folks that were just about to open their garden center or just about to pull their tractors out for landscaping. They're trying to figure out on the PPP how they best determine their employee count.
So for the Paycheck Protection Program, a business had to have been in existence as of February 15th of 2020. So a business that opened afterwards is not going to be eligible for the PPP. But a business that has been, operational as of that date, doesn't matter if it's a seasonal business or not. We're gonna, a bank is going to look at their historical payroll expenses, and the way the formula works, they have to figure out what the monthly payroll expense is, and then get to the 8-week average.
Okay, and that average can be impacted. For example, I know they were asking for a particular time frame in 2019. So again, if you've been in business as a landscaper for 20 years and you're just ramping up operations, then you're gonna have to take an average of what you had on your payroll for people last season between the months, from what I understand, of February to June. Is that right?
So that is how the guidance reads currently. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more information provided. We're hoping today, but in the days to come. as far as those nuances of, of specific businesses and particulars on not commercial lending, no two cases are alike. So your banker is really, your best resource.
Okay. So in the banks, I know are going through a lot of the training now and receiving the information now. They're experiencing very high volumes. I've had some banks in the area basically say that they're only going to support or assist their current commercial clients. In other words, they're not going to help anyone at this point take them in front of their regular clients. So I've been telling people they should really reach out to their accountant if they have a tax filer, as well as their commercial banker, and let them know that they'd like to talk about this and possibly be moving forward with a loan or possibly a negotiation of the loan, possibly a couple of months being allowed just interest only or whatnot. There was a question about folks that already have SBA loans, 504 and 7A. Is there a forgiveness on that where they don't have to make payments for some time?
So that is one of the things that the stimulus package does provide. So anyone who has an existing 504 or 7A loan that's current, okay, with a bank or being serviced by a credit union or a certified development company, the SBA is going to pay 6 months worth of principal and interest on those loans. So if you're an SBA loan recipient, that's one less thing you have to worry about. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for new loans being approved after the 27th of March.
So some of those loans are through like locally seed corporation and then others through local banks, correct?
That's correct. So certified development company would service 504 loans, whereas banks and credit unions, they would service 7A loans and the third party loan components of the 504 debentures.
Okay. And we've got so many questions here. We're going to spread these out and allow people to take them as we go. But let me just jump on. Somebody asked about the 500 employees. Do they have any options if they're over 500 employees?
So there is, it's specified on the guide, the interim rule, as we call it, that if you are in the hospitality business, so a hotel or a restaurant that has multiple locations and each location has less than 500 employees, as long as each location has less than 500 employees, it doesn't matter if in aggregate you have more than 500 employees as a business. So it goes by location.
Okay.
So that's one benefit. Another way to qualify based on size standard is by gross revenues. So some industries would qualify based on number of employees. Others are going to qualify based on the gross revenues, and that's specified based on their NAICS code. So that's the North American Classification and Industrial Code.
Okay. And so in terms of eligibility, back on the advance, the emergency loan forgivable advance of up to $10,000, does that cover sub-chapter S corporations, partnerships, real estate trusts?
So we're talking about the Paycheck Protection loan program.
No, the EDIL.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. So yes, any business would be eligible to apply for the economic injury disaster loan.
And nonprofit, it sounds like, except for churches, correct?
So charitable organizations and religious entities, in addition to racetracks and gambling institutions and, agriculture farms. So those are the ineligible entities. But for the most part, the loan specialist at the SBA, they're going to look at every loan that gets submitted. As long as they're an eligible business, they're going to work with you.
So I just want to be clear on that because we've had many nonprofits on this call. They're eligible, right? Most of them are eligible?
So my understanding is that 501c3s
okay.
would be eligible. There's
Okay,
been
so
a question about,
charitable and education, right?
that's right. So there's been questions about 501c6s and 501c4s, and we've gotten some mixed answers on that from the disaster loan assistance the division there.
Okay. And people are asking about the 8 weeks. When does that start? How is that figured on the PPP?
So for businesses that have already, laid some people off, okay, the number of the full-time equivalents that we're looking for those businesses to rehire and maintain on the payroll is between today basically and 8 weeks from now.
8 weeks from
Okay,
now.
so we're looking for pre-crisis FTE equivalents. Doesn't have to be the
Full-time,
same
so
people. So
two part-timers is a full-time?
2 part-timers is a full-time.
Okay. So this question is regarding the PPP, I believe. If a business has already laid off workers, can we use the money when we bring them back and still have it applied toward the forgiveness?
So the intent, again, is for people to be rehired now, not later. What the administration is looking to do, and I think, I can see the logic in here. So we don't know how long this crisis is going to last, but we do anticipate it to be over soon, especially with warmer weather coming, just around the corner here. So we want small businesses not to lose any talent that they've already trained. We want small businesses to be ready for when, we get back to normality. This is a great opportunity to keep people on payroll and, just be ready for, this thing. We may get an order from the president or from the governor saying that, May 1st, everything should go back to normal. So it takes a lot more work to start bringing people in versus when you have everything ready to go and you go back to, the normal way you do business. So this is one of the main benefits we see with the Paycheck Protection Program.
Okay, Eli, is it in your understanding, is it easier to be eligible for the EIDL loans or the PPP loans? It seems as though the EIDL is going through directly through electronic means, and the PPP is going through local banks. Are they better off applying for the EIDL first and then the PPP for whatever they can't? Yeah.
So easy is really not the term that I would want to describe one or the other, right?
Okay.
Both programs are designed to fulfill different needs. And each small business needs to reassess their needs. They need to do, their own analysis. They need to work with their bankers. They need to work with their CPAs. They need to work with their attorneys. If they don't, they can work with one of our resource partners, with the chambers and other business associations they're part of. You need to know as a small business whether it makes the most sense for you to, if you've got a large payroll, let's say, and you're going to get the most benefit out of the Paycheck Protection Program with the 8 weeks of loan forgiveness. That may be the option you'd want to go for. Okay, the Economic Injury Loan Program may be, is there, it's available, you can apply for it, but for most businesses, payroll is the largest, expense. And if you're in the e-commerce or, the service industry where you have absolutely your sole proprietor, you've got very little overhead, you've got very little payroll, then maybe the Economic Injury Loan is the better option. But for small businesses that have employees that have a large payroll expense, the Paycheck Protection Loan Program will be by far the better alternative.
Okay, that's very, very helpful. We have a couple of banks on the call, and they're wondering when they're going to get the modules to be able to begin processing the applications that they're accumulating from commercial clients.
So our bank clients, again, I can't thank them enough, for their patience and their understanding, for being fully on board with the program. I know this is being rushed, and you know, I totally get it. I understand their frustration, and greatly appreciate everything they're doing. You know, they're getting inundated with calls like you and I, Chris, from small businesses, because these are, you know, desperate times, and you know, such measures are required to get things back to normality. But there's a couple of issues. So as far as the applications, those are live, those are in place. So all lenders should be able to have borrowers fill out applications. They can fill out their own certifications. That is available, that is live. Guidance is, I think it's sufficient to get started. They don't need to close on the loans today, so we do not have official guidance on closing documents. But the lenders who are basically participating with the program, they should be able to basically put the loans through, get the loan authorizations, get the loan number, and reserve the funds for the small businesses. There are some lenders that do not have full access to the systems, and that is perhaps because they have not been very active with the SBA. They forgot to keep their accesses current, or the person with access has left the bank, or is no longer employed, or whatever the situation may be. So we are experiencing a delay when it comes to getting the system up and running for some smaller, less active lenders. And just want people to understand that this is a government system. There's cybersecurity threats, there's spyware out there. We have in place a state-of-the-art two-level security system in place to protect the private, personally identifiable information of small businesses. And it is not something that's going to happen overnight. So that takes time. In addition, we've got lenders from all 50 states reaching out to the same, IT team that we've got for the same request. So that's been, in my opinion, that's been the biggest holdup.
Okay, so we can expect that next week? I mean,
I'm hoping sooner than later.
Okay, I understand. And I know everyone's working as fast as they can, and Congress just released these funds last Friday. When we had this call at 2:00, we finished at 3:05, and they announced at 3:15 that they had a vote, and these monies would be made available. And then I know you and I were basically on the phone and communicating along with Lexi and Emma on the chamber staff, trying to coordinate a call for this week to kind of now get up to date and give people all of the new updates. And I think we were all surprised that on Monday morning, they made the electronic EDIL, emergency advance money application, available. And then it was so simple. So kudos to you guys. You can understand the sense of urgency, but we want to let you know that we're going to continue to work with you and to get this information out. And I know you guys are working on it behind the scenes to get the banks what they need to be able to process these loans. I have a few more questions. In regard to, I know you touched on this a little bit, in terms of the EIDL funds, are those likely to be approved and in people's accounts, bank accounts, quicker than the PPP because the application was made available a week earlier?
So we are telling folks that a week's time should be sufficient. That's why we're asking for bank account numbers and account numbers and routing numbers, bank names and whatnot. So the Office of Disaster Assistance is looking to get this, the advanced component of it in your bank account within a week. So one of the things that I didn't mention, we hired out a private, contractor, and we basically have the platform that I showed you on the previous slides is through a fintech lender, actually. And they have the ability to process 2,000 loans a minute.
Wow.
So it truly takes 10 minutes to fill out, the request for the advance, and knowing their capabilities, I have no doubt that it's going to be done, if not in a week, in less than 10 days. That's
great. So on the 7A loans and the 504 loans, folks are asking two questions. One is, what are the rates? What are the difference in the rates? First off.
So the Paycheck Protection Loan Program is fixed at 1%. So whatever is not going to be a forgiven component that's directly tied to the payroll expense, it's going to basically, just to give you an example, if you apply for $1 million loan and 75% of that $1 million is directly tied to your payroll expenses, the full $1 million may end up being forgiven. If you apply for $1.5 million, however, and only $1 million is tied to your payroll expenses and whatnot, then the additional $500,000 would need to be repaid within 2 years.
Okay.
Okay, so lenders can, not only do they get 100% guarantee for the 2-year window, they can request the SBA to pay on the forgiven component of the loan within that 8-week period. So then they can amortize the difference that's not forgiven, for whatever 22 months or 20 months that's left.
Okay. Helpful. That's helpful. For those who have a 504 or 7A loan, you talked about them not having to make payments for 6 months. Will Seed Corp and the banks reach out to them, or will they, the lender, the lenders reach out, or will the person who's loaned the money have to initiate the conversation?
So the small businesses don't have to do a thing. So small businesses, what they need to know is that this is between the SBA and the bank or the CDC. Both banks and CDCs, they have, internal channels through the fiscal transfer agents to make this happen. So what we are asking lenders to do is notify us at the SBA through their fiscal transfer agent. And, whether you're a CDC or whether you're a bank, that's a different fiscal transfer agent. So basically, we're only asking the CDCs, the banks, to give us the gross monthly payment amount for each one of these loans that is current. And we're going to pay up to 6 months of that, P&I, principal and interest, on behalf of the borrower. Okay. Now, there's just to tie with that quickly here. If a bank or a CDC was gracious enough to grant a small business owner a deferment of 3 months or whatever, given the situation, that doesn't mean that they don't qualify for the full 6-month payment. So we're still going to pay 6 months worth of payments after the deferment period.
Okay. These questions go to the origination fees. Are there origination fees for either the EIDL or the PPP? And can banks charge more than the 1%?
So there is absolutely no costs for the economic injury disaster loan. Lenders can only charge 1% on the PPP loan program. Okay, and the SBA is gonna pay a processing fee to the lenders.
Okay, and so some have mentioned that the banks might want the security of having the loans now backed by the federal government versus just on their balance sheets.
So the Paycheck Protection Program is 100% guaranteed. So whereas the Express Bridge Loan Program is only going to be 50% guaranteed. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that is, direct SBA loan, so that's fully guaranteed.
Okay. All right. And periods that loan origination and purchase business. Okay. The personal guarantee provision for these loans. Can you talk about the process by which they're going to? It sounds like there's going to be a credit. Credit is run, and then the 600 to 50 or above. Beyond that, folks are asking if they have a tax situation where they're making payments, will that factor into their approval or not?
All right, so for the economic injury disaster loan, there will be that credit check. And again, as I mentioned, there is no published number, but an average credit score or better should qualify you for the economic injury disaster loan. Whereas the Paycheck Protection Loan Program, that will not have any requirements from the SBA. The lender may, may choose to run a credit, and I don't know, how lenders are looking to approach this, and we really haven't had a chance, to get a lot of feedback from the industry, but they are not required because there's no personal guarantee requirements, no collateral requirements with the Paycheck Protection Loan Program.
Okay. And can these loans be used to consolidate other loans?
So that is a good question. That's a question we get often. They are not. So the purpose of the Paycheck Protection Program is only to rehire people if they've been laid off, to keep people employed for a period of up to the 8-week period. Whereas with the economic injury loan, the purpose of funding again is working capital needs only.
Okay.
If, however, a small business borrows through their personal line of credit, their existing business, I should say line of credit, personal doesn't mean the same thing. So if they've got a line of credit in place, that's for working capital needs, they're using that instead of borrowing additional money through the bridge loan or whatnot, then the economic injury loan could pay off that working capital line of credit. So you could use an economic injury disaster loan, to pay off a similar working capital loan or line.
Okay. Yeah, we seem to be getting that question a lot. It seems like people want to apply for the EIDL first and then see what happens there because the application's already online, I guess. And then they would move over to the PPP loan secondarily in that order. Does that seem to make sense for most?
As I mentioned earlier, I think the business truly needs to assess their needs. They need to see which loan's going to make the most sense. Again, knowing that if you qualify for both the advance and the payroll forgiveness component of the PPP loan, one of them has to be paid back. It really, I think it does depend. I think that's where you consult with your team, with your the CPA and the business banker or the loan officer, and you come up with the most beneficial program.
Okay. So someone's asking if your slides will be available. Can we post those on the Chamber's website?
I believe Lex has got them.
Okay, that's terrific. That's terrific. And in terms of additional updates, would you be available, say, next Friday to possibly do this again with really focused on the PPP?
Absolutely. Would love to.
That's great, Eli. This has been an unprecedented time. I really appreciate your efforts, and we're all working from home and implementing technology and software maybe that we haven't been familiar with. We thank you, Eli and Margaret and Susan, for your perseverance and your partnership in getting this information out and working from home and and everything that is involved. I know I have 3 teenage daughters here, and I'm surprised I haven't run into the office. Talking and whatnot. It's just we're all living through this. So I want to just thank you for going above and beyond, and thank those who are on the call who understand exactly what all of us are going through in terms of trying to get this information out, maintain our professional composure while also balancing our needs, our personal and health needs with our families. So I just want to wish you the very best in the week to come. We hope to be back with you by the end of this week. It's funny, I have City Council Moses Rodriguez calling me while I'm talking here. So hi, Moses, I'll get right back to you as soon as we get finished. But if you have other questions that you'd like answered, please write them in and we will distribute them to whoever the panelists most appropriate is. Again, thank you all. Is there anything you want to add, Mayor or Margaret or Susan or Eli?
No, I just want to thank the information that was given today is extremely helpful. And again, I just want to thank you, Chris, for your leadership. I want to thank everybody participating on this. I mean, last week we had over 100. We have over 120 today. People are looking for information that's going to help them. And this was the type of forum. So I look forward to participating in more. And I wish everybody a good weekend and stay safe.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. Moses, as a former mayor, I have to give him respect here and ask his question. When can we, let's see, he says, what if you have W-2s and 1099s as expenses? And if one applies for EID loan, can they use a portion for payroll and get that portion forgiven? I don't know who can take that.
So I can jump in on that. So with the economic injury disaster loan, there's definitely a payroll component that is part of that calculation. The only time that we would say go with the Paycheck Protection Loan Program versus the economic injury disaster loan program is if your payroll expense exceeds the $10,000 advance that's converted into a grant under the EIDL loan.
Okay. All right. He says thank you. And I think that he has a group of 7 there, so that's going to benefit more than just himself, but some of his constituents as well. So Susan, Margaret?
Yeah, thank you very much. This was helpful for us as well. And by all means, we put our information in the chat window. So if anyone has additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Great. Thanks, Susan.
Thank
Margaret?
you very much for including us, Chris. To you and your team, you're doing a great job. We really appreciate you've been a great partner to us, Mayor Sullivan. If there's anything we can do in the meantime, and we look forward to being back on board with you next Friday.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Eli, any last words or anything we can do to help or banks can do to increase the communication or be responsive to their commercial lender clients?
Well, I cannot stress enough, to small businesses out there that, you do not need a broker. I mean, not that we don't like them, we like them plenty. This is really not a loan. You don't need anybody to package these deals. Just work with your bankers, find a lender on our website, reach out to us, reach out to the chamber, make use of all the resources available. We are truly blessed here in Massachusetts. We are a resource-rich state, and I just want people to be aware that we are not alone. So we'll make it through this together.
Thank you, Eli. And I just want to call everyone's attention one last time to the link that is in the chat and the Q&A section that will bring you directly to that $10,000 loan advance. Boston was one of the first cities to get a state of emergency declared. And I know our businesses have been suffering a little bit longer than others. And folks have been out of work and been stressed. And this $10,000 application is very, very easy. As Eli mentioned, I've probably talked about 40 people through it in the last 48 hours. It's pretty straightforward. It puts money right into your bank, your business bank account. It can help you offset some costs right away. It does not preclude you from applying for other loans and other assistance. So if you're in a situation where you really don't know what you're going to do, I know it's the first of the month yesterday, and people have new expenses in this month. Apply for that $10,000 so we can get those dollars back into our local economy in the city of Brockton and in the region. So thank you once again. I'm signing off. I hope you all have a pleasant weekend. It's supposed to get a little bit better towards the end, and take care.
All right, thanks again, Chris. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.